and welcome back to the Algorithm Podcast.
Nice little break we've been on here.
Yep, 2 week break.
Yep.
Hope you guys had a good New Year's.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How was your Christmas?
It was cool.
It was cool.
Yeah.
My Christmas was eventful.
Yeah, kids got a bunch of stuff, and it's always fun to watch them open their presents. That's the best part about Christmas when you could become a parent, is watching your kids be super happy.
Oh yeah, it was Hallie's first Christmas, so we got to see her open up a bunch of shit. What about your New Year's?
New Year's was cool. I mean, we had to work the next day. I mean, if you
Oh,
don't know,
yeah.
me and Carl got the same job, so we got to work the next day, damn near on every holiday. But I hung out with the fam, played some cards with my grandma. It was a good time.
I was at Lucas Oil.
Yep.
Yeah, I was at the Colts game.
Yep.
I forgot about that shit. I think we were in bed at like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's probably a long day.
Yeah. This episode is being released on a Friday.
Yeah. New release day.
We're gonna change it to Friday. It gives me a little bit more time to edit.
Mm.
I think it's more schedule friendly for us to, we're not in a rush to do things.
Yeah.
Kerrigan is going to be on the show. We did kind of discuss that.
Yep.
So there's going to be, for the bulk of our episodes, there's going to be a 5-man crew
Yeah.
doing these episodes. And
Here
we
and
got
there.
some.
Yeah, here and there it'll just be me and Barl still rocking with some of the stuff that
Yep.
the girls don't really mess with too much. But 5-man squad kind of makes us a little bit stronger. Kind of
Yep.
helps out with scheduling issues sometimes too. If somebody can't make it, we'll have Kerrigan sit in.
And you never know when that shit's gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean,
we've had to cancel episodes several times because
Yeah.
of me and you both.
yeah.
Today's episode, just me and Garrett, we're talking about another polarizing figure
All right.
from the mafia,
Yeah.
Michael Franzese.
Yep. So get your gabagool, get
Yep.
your Adidas sweatsuits on.
If you don't know
Gold
much, if you don't know much about the mafia, a lot of these movies, like The Godfather portrays the mafia really well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of them are like bullshit, but like the mafia itself is so fascinating to
Yeah.
me. Like how these guys just did whatever the fuck they wanted to do.
It really is crazy.
Yeah. The mafia kind of took a hit in the mid 80s with Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
Rudy Giuliani brought forth the RICO law. That's why that shit just, people are getting 50, 100 years. And that's why that shit kind of went like hush hush.
Yeah, and it brought upon like a lot of the snitching and ratting people out too, because
Mhm.
like before that it was kind of like a unheard thing, like it just didn't happen. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They had to have them pretty much red-handed, catch them in the act of actually doing something to get these guys. And once the law came privy to it and came up with a plan of action to actually fight these dudes, that's when you kind of see the mob kind of take a huge hit and see all these things start happening.
Yep, that RICO is crazy.
Yeah.
Today's episode is Michael Franzese. We're eventually going to do like Sammy the Bull, John Gotti.
Yeah, we're gonna dive all the way
Al
into the mafia because
Capone.
we're both like, I wasn't real big on it. Carl kind of put me on it, but after watching a lot of these Michael Franzese interviews, and because he's, if you don't know, he's one of the only guys that's ever been able to get out of the mob without,
Protection.
without protection. Yeah, so
Yeah. He's the only man to ever leave the mob without protection, and it's insane. Like it's a crazy story. So let's go ahead and
Yeah,
get
let's
into
start
it.
then.
I can lead us, or you can lead us. It don't matter.
Go ahead. I gotta pull it up still.
All right. Michael Franzese was born on May 27th, 1951 in Brooklyn, New York to John Sonny Franzese, a Colombo crime family underboss, and Christina Capobianco Franzese, although Michael had initially questioned who his actual biological father was. Sonny back then was really, really famous. He was like the Al Capone of that time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and his dad was like so by the book, old school mob guy.
His dad wasn't actually like he wasn't like a made man, was he?
No, his dad was. His
Was
dad was a
I
underboss.
thought he talked about how his dad wasn't.
No, his dad was.
Huh.
He was the underboss in the Colombo family. Yep.
Maybe I was thinking of somebody else. But yeah, go ahead.
Who? No, I know what you're talking about. Who was he talk?
I feel like it was somebody in his family that
Yeah.
was like very well respected by the mafia, but wasn't. He was like an associate, is what they called him. Like they're not
Yeah.
actually made men. They're not actually.
He was that way for a while.
Yeah.
Francis had initially believed that he had been adopted by John or Sonny after his mother divorced Frank Grillo, whom Francis thought to be his biological father. Michael says he had gone by the name Mike Grillo until he was 18 years old. He talked about this in one of the Vlad interviews. Like, uh, eventually, at some point, he just brushed that off, and Sonny was his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, it was later discovered that Sonny, already married with 3 children, had gotten the 16-year-old Capobianco, a cigarette girl at the Stork Club in Manhattan, pregnant with Michael. So Capobianco married Grillo to avoid having a scandal surrounding having a child out of wedlock. After the mob allowed John to divorce his first wife, Grillo disappeared and John married Capobianco.
Which that's like you kind of spoke just a minute ago how they talked about like being straight by the book. Like that's one of the like biggest no-nos within
Italian families.
is like you don't cheat on your wife. Like you get whacked for that basically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Francis later moved to Long Island. His father originally did not want him to be involved in organized crime. However, in 1971, Francis decided to drop out of college to help his family earn money when his father was sentenced to 50 years in prison for a bank robbery in 1967.
I'll pause you. This, like, because I know this written right here isn't going to get into all this shit.
Yeah, so yeah.
Michael was, yeah, Michael was really, really fucking smart.
Yeah.
Like in school and shit.
Yeah, he was like a pre-med.
Yeah. And his father, like, he swears to this by this day, and this is what he knows. Yeah. Like, his father was framed for this crime because these crimes involved like a bunch of junkies.
Yeah.
And one thing about the Colombo family, it doesn't necessarily go for the other 4 families because there's 5 families, but the Colombo family did not involve themselves in drugs
at all. Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, absolutely not.
So that's how he knew, because his dad said if you get involved with drugs, you get killed.
Yeah.
Like, so that's how he knew his
brings a
father's
lot of heat to the organization
Yeah.
that they didn't want.
Yeah. So Michael dropped out to pursue getting justice for his father, and it was a big step.
Yep. All right. He became acquainted with his father's friends, such as Joseph Colombo, and according to Francis, later became inducted as a made man on Halloween night, 1975, under acting boss Tommy Diabella.
Tom DiBella.
Yeah. As part of the ceremony, Francis took the blood oath and swore.
Omerta.
Yeah. Nice. He took the oath alongside friend Jimmy Angelino, Joseph
Perano and
Jr. and Salvatore Micada.
It's like Michiota or something
Michiota.
like that. Yeah.
I need to get I gotta have
Vito Guzza Sr. and John Minerva.
All of them except Machada died violently over the next 20 years.
Yeah, only one of the dudes from that night are still alive.
Yeah, I remember him talking about that in
the interview.
Yeah, in one of the interviews. Although Francis recounts this ceremony had taken place in 1975, the membership books reportedly were not reopened until 1976. They had been closed since 1957.
So this was like a big kind of like, him and Sammy the Bull recently got into a spit spat.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like a big thing that Sammy brings up to question Michael's like legitimacy. Sammy says these books were closed for so long, almost 20 years, and he says they only reopened them because to get Michael in, who was the son of Sonny Franzese.
Right.
When other guys had to go through some shit to get those books reopened.
Right. I mean, I can see because kind of off subject, I like coach baseball, so like you get the daddy ball thing. Mm-hmm. So like I get that, like him, kind of pushing that point, but at the same time, it's like you had to get like a recommendation basically by somebody to even become a made man. So it's like I don't understand, like what other way would it happen?
Yeah, his dad made a call to Tom DiBella, and Tom went up to Michael and said, "Michael, it's from my understanding that you want to be a part of the family." And Michael said yes. And then Tommy told him, he was like, "Okay, from this point forward, we are your family."
Right.
He was like, "If your mother's sick and dying on the hospital bed, and we give you a call, you have to drop what you're doing and come serve the Colombo family."
He also talked about like getting like to kind of go back a little bit, like getting into it. They had him like, or they were doing something like. like on strike or something.
Okay, the Italian civil rights movement.
Yeah.
Joe Colombo was the leader of it. So
They formed like a union for that.
the union,
And he was like one of the guys that was like a big part of that.
he was standing by Joe Colombo during like picketing because they were standing up to a lot of these cops and the law enforcements were starting to really crack down on the mob. And
Yeah.
Joe Colombo said his son was framed too. So Michael took it upon himself as an 18-year-old kid to just be at the picket lines and shit. Which crazy thing is, I'm pretty sure it's going to get into this, but he actually witnessed Joe Colombo get
shot.
hit.
Yeah.
I think at one of them pickets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was at one of the pickets.
Yeah. Franzese was briefly mentored by Colombo soldier Joseph Jojo Vitaco. During the late 1970s, Franzese met with future Gambino crime family boss John Gotti, who was then a soldier. Angelo Ruggiero was also present. Franzese was contacted by a flea market owner who complained that his partner was using and selling drugs at the market in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. Franzese agreed to frighten him and become a new partner. Franzese sent Colombo soldier turned informant Anthony Saravola and another member who remains unidentified. Gotti, however, claimed that the scared-off partner was an associate of his. Franzese later expressed admiration for Gotti, citing his strict mobster lifestyle and his overwhelming ego. In 1980, Franzese had become a capital regime or captain of a crew of 300.
Capo.
Capo. I'll read this next one.
Okay.
During the 1970s, he began to enter the world of legitimate business, and by the mid-1980s, Franzese had a stronghold on various businesses such as car dealerships, leasing companies, auto repair shops, restaurants, nightclubs, a contractor company, movie production and distribution companies, travel agencies, and video stores.
That one kind of surprised me that he had like a movie production company and they were actually like in the movie making business.
Yeah, he made a couple movies, I think is what he said.
Yeah.
Shylocking was crazy. I don't know if it talks about that. The fucking sports betting shit's wild. Too.
Yeah,
that
was the most nuts stuff to me. Like when he really got into that, I mean, it doesn't surprise you, but at the same time, it's like some of those most iconic events, like they're a part of them. You know?
Yeah, he said pretty much any team, any sport you can think of, we had a hand in it.
All right, and that's crazy. I mean, just think of it. It kind of it starts making your mind race. Like, what did this one family have a hand in? Like,
I just wish you.
Like
I just wish you would tell. I wish you would tell which games and shit.
Because it seemed like he was willing to talk about like the boxing stuff more than like because I mean, I'd say, and I think he actually said in one of the interviews, basketball was like
he said basketball is the easiest sport to manipulate because of the point spread. Yeah, you can fucking have a point guard turn the ball over.
Right, you got one guy that's going to touch the ball a lot more in that sport than any other.
And with boxing, he said the biggest thing about boxing was these big championship fights. He was like, don't look at the big championship fights. Look at the under ones.
It's the undercards.
It's the undercards. Because, I mean, less eyes were on the undercards. He was like, it was easy to pay a guy 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 grand to just take a dive.
So a bunch of people win.
Imagine fucking getting off track. Imagine being the son of Sonny Franzese, like in school and shit.
Yeah, they kind of talked about that. Like, I mean, it kind of be one of those guys that just almost look at as untouchable. Like, this dude could probably do, what he wanted back then. Yeah. It's like, what happens to you? Even if nothing was going to happen to you, you still got that, like, the thing in the back of your head, like, I can't fuck with this dude. I might end up dead.
He said fucking cops were always at his house and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like... It is crazy because you watch all these mob movies and stuff, and it's like they really had to do that stuff. Like he had to leave his house, have a tail by cops, and go into 3 different houses to get where he wanted to go, out the back door, into another car. Like it is crazy. These dudes actually live this lifestyle. When we come up as kids just watching all these mob movies, and it seems like a video game almost, but these dudes are actually living it.
Yeah. That's why it fascinates me so much. Like. Sammy the Bull is one of the dudes who fascinate me the most. He killed 16 people. Yeah. And he's out right now telling stories of shit. He killed 16 people.
And I mean, like, did he kill 16 people or like, did he kill 100?
More 100, right? Yeah. Like
16 that they
people,
know of.
Like the fact that he killed 16 people and he's free.
Insane.
It doesn't matter just because he gave up Gotti.
Yeah. Shit's wild, dude. I can't wait to do that episode. That episode.
Sammy's gonna be crazy because then you talk about the murders, you talk about Gotti, you talk about the snitching.
We'll have to do the Gotti and
Sammy
Bull like
part 1 and 2.
Yeah, maybe like back to back.
Mhm.
Like yeah,
I'm cool with that.
yeah, that'll be cool. All right. By 1980, Franzese was a partner with booking agent Norby Walters in his firm. Franzese's role was to intimidate existing and prospective clients. Franzese would later testify he provided the initial $50,000 to Walters to start his agency booking company with a 25% share of any profits. Additionally, Franzese would assist with any entertainers Walters had problems with by meeting their agents. In 1981, Franzese successfully extorted a role for Walters in the U.S. tour by singer Michael Jackson and his brothers. In 1982, the manager for singer
Diane Warwick.
Yeah, Diane Warwick wanted to drop Walters as an agent. Franzese met with the manager and persuaded him to keep Walters.
Yeah, he fucking intimidated.
They're just like strong arming these dudes.
Intimidated the Jackson 5.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just to get Norby on the fucking tour.
I always just like picture this shit, like just like the Italian slang and shit. Just like
the thing is like Sammy always calls out Michael because he always says, Michael, you didn't do work, which doing work was like killing and shit like that. And Michael's like, you have no idea.
All right,
because they didn't really know each other.
Yeah, that's what he said. Like they knew of each other, but they didn't really do business together.
Yeah, he was like, you have no idea. He was like, there's no statute of limitations for murder or other shit like that. He was like, you have no idea.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean.
And
like strong arm with the fucking Jackson 5.
Yeah. I mean, and Diane Warwick was like a big name too. Like, there's no, like, it's just crazy. These dudes were literally doing this shit you see in the movies.
In 1981, Franzese was contacted by Lawrence Salvatore Lorizzo, who had developed a scheme to defraud the federal government out of gasoline taxes in 1985. Lorizzo was being hassled by criminals in California and offered Franzese a percentage if he would defend and solve the issue. The pair set up 18 stock bearer companies based in Panama. Under law at the time in Panama, gasoline could be sold tax-free from one wholesale company to the next. Franzese partnered with the Russian mafia in Brooklyn in the gasoline scheme. This shit, it's
genius.
Genius, dude.
Really genius.
Genius. Yeah. Like, especially back then, like, obviously, like, technology and shit wasn't as good as good as it is today. They were just fucking raking that shit.
Yeah, just raking. They might even say it here, but
he was making $9 million.
Yeah, it was like $9 or $10.
It was $9 million a week, and so they had, they would build these gas stations, and they would have 10 months to make this money before the government would not come to their door saying,
and ask
"Where's
for
the
the
money?"
taxes, right?
And then they would pack up, leave, go start a new one.
Yep, like, sorry, we don't have it. We'll just close the gas station down.
Yeah.
And they were also like selling the gas cheaper than other gas stations, so like people just always came and did business with.
So he would go up to the other gas stations and tell them like, "What's your price on gas?" And he would tell them like, "Okay, this is my price. This is what." And he would always make sure his price was lower.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do anything because no matter what, he would be able to get the lower price on the gas.
And he talked about how like the gas companies weren't even mad at him, they probably kind of even knew what he was doing, and still were just like, they're selling so much gas. What do we do about it?
And people were fucking eating that shit because it was the cheapest gas you could get.
Shit's crazy, bro.
The wholesale gas was sold to one company but shipped to another company, while a third company, a dummy company, was sold the gasoline on paper and would forge tax documents for the company that received the gasoline. That's kind of confusing.
Yeah.
Franzese's crew was then able to collect and pocket the 9 cents per gallon of gasoline in federal tax. Once enforcement agents attempt to collect the tax from the dummy company, it declares bankruptcy and the daisy chain would continue.
It's just like, oh, sorry, we ain't got it. I guess we'll just close the doors. And they're like, all right, well, what are you going to do then? It's just like any other company, like bankrupt time. Shit's insane, man. $10 million a week, bro.
Yeah.
They're just kicking up to the bosses.
I just don't understand how a movie hasn't been made about this dude. I don't know.
I think they did make one, but it was probably like one of it's like a documentary or something.
Yeah, he had a cameo in fucking Goodfellas, and I think like he had a cameo in Goodfellas, and they've talked about making one, but this is like the shit that you like. This is the mafia.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I would fucking pay whatever to watch this movie.
I mean, who plays him?
That's a good question. Mm. You'd have to have a young one, and then
He
probably,
doesn't look like super Italian either. Like he doesn't have the complexion really of like a real like Italian dude. Like
who would play him?
maybe like Leo. Leo could play him.
Maybe.
Maybe the dude. What's the dude from like that plays like the Punisher? The dude from Walking
Ooh,
Dead.
John Bernthal.
Yeah,
he'd be a good one.
he'd
That'd
play
be a
him
good
good.
one. I'd sold on that.
Yeah. All right. Don't be taking our ideas and shit, man. Yeah. All right. The gasoline supplied between 1/3 and 1/2 of the gasoline sold in New York metropolitan area. According to the officials, Franzese kept 75% of the profits, making $1.26 million per month, with Larizzo made $45,000 per month. An associate later testified that Franzese personally made $1 million per week from the gas scheme.
That's false.
Yeah,
it was not. It was $9 million a week. That was from actually Michael himself.
Yeah, he said that on the Vlad interviews.
Yeah, they did the math.
Yeah, insane, dude. And I think he even talked about how much he was kicking up to the bosses too.
Yeah, he was kicking
$2 million of it.
Carmine Persico was the boss at the time. It was like $2 million a month or something like that. Yeah.
And I mean, at that point, it's like,
oh yeah,
you're in the best graces with the boss man.
So when you devise schemes like that, you have to go over with the bosses and stuff to make
sure it's cool that you
verify.
Do it. Yeah.
And he went up to Carmine Persico, which he would. I know you don't know much about him. He's an insane one. We should maybe do. He went to Carmine. He was like, Carmine, I'm going to show you more money than you've ever seen in your life.
I remember saying that.
And Carmine was like, show me. And fucking he pulled out a briefcase and he showed him $250,000. He was like, that's the first like day's take or something like that. And Carmine was like, all right,
let's get it.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Here, I'll just keep going. Franzese had claimed that at the height of his career, he generated up to $8 million per week revenue. Officials estimated $250 million in gasoline tax was stolen in New York State per year before moving on to Florida, which was estimated to have lost $40 million to $250 million in stolen gasoline tax. Authorities believe the money was laundered through Franzese's film production company, Miami Gold, to offshore bank accounts in Austria and Panama. Franzese bought a home in Delray Beach, Florida, which I think he even talked about where he put a lot of the money for that shit.
He had like
Austria. I'm pretty sure it was Austria.
Yeah. In 1983, the FBI launched an investigation into boxing promoter Don King's organized crime connections and targeted Franzese to introduce an FBI undercover agent using the alias Victor Quintana to King. Franzese, who had never met King, says he was introduced to him by civil rights leader Al Sharpton. This shit's fucking...
This is the funniest part. This part made me laugh.
Franzese claimed he first met Sharpton through the Genovese crime family mobster, Daniel Pagano. Genovese would be a good one to do. You know who Chin Gigante was?
Mm-mm.
So Chin Gigante was the leader of the Genovese crime family. So this dude, they called him the Chin. And he had this fucking like big crimson
big ass,
chin.
Jalen.
And so this dude was like smart as fuck. He would walk up and down, I can't remember what street it was, like fucking in a bathrobe, crazy hair and shit like that, just like fucking talking to himself and shit like that to make himself look insane. To where if he ever got busted, he was so popular, people was always taking pictures of him.
Right.
So they would use those pictures in court to claim his insanity.
I'm crazy, bro.
Nice. We got to do an episode on Chin too.
We'll have to do episodes on all these like big
because the characters are insane.
Yeah.
Like these guys are like real like fucking. I think
movie characters, bro. It's like insane.
There was a dude named Tommy Eggs or Billy Eggs or something like that, and they called him Eggs because he just ate a fuck ton of eggs, and he has a cool story. Like these movie characters, like real fucking people.
Man.
Quintana was to give the impression that he was buying his way into the boxing world in order for King to reveal his criminal associations. However, the investigation subsequently collapsed after Quintana failed to follow through with several $100,000. Fucking, we had Al Sharpton was fucking an informant, like snitching on people. Yeah.
Well, and then they talked about in that whole undercover scheme or whatever, Al Sharpton was the only one to get in trouble throughout the whole thing, because Michael Franzese like was real like adamant that he never said anything. Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
knew like not to talk.
Yeah,
Like,
he told Don King that the dudes that he was talking to, he was like, he could only trace them back a year. So
Yeah.
don't say anything that
Right.
could get them in fucking trouble.
yeah, and Al Sharpton, Reverend Al Sharpton, was the only person that got in trouble, and I think it was like drugs. Or
Yeah, it was
something.
drugs. It was
Yeah, he
drugs.
ended up getting in trouble with
And
some
he
drugs.
fucking turned informant.
Yeah. Shit's insane, bro.
Vlad was like, wait, Al Sharpton?
Yeah.
He was like, 100%.
Yeah.
He was like, I don't care what he says. He was a fucking informant.
Yeah, he was real adamant about that. I don't give a
Yeah.
fuck what he says. He was an informant, bro. In 1985, Walter set up a sports management agency with Franzese as a silent partner. At a meeting, he agreed to hand over $50,000 in return for 25% interest from the sports agency. So like this dude's literally just like raking in money off these companies. Like 20, that's a lot from a company, bro. 25%.
At like 33 or 34 years of age, he was the number 13 or 14 on Forbes all-time money earning list
Yeah.
for mob.
And I think-
mobsters. And this is Lucky Luciano, this is fucking Al Capone, this is
In a time too where it's really like you're starting to get towards like that the technology side of like them starting to fight the mob. Like I mean, back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, these dudes could literally do whatever the fuck they wanted.
whatever they wanted.
So it's like it's crazy, and that's kind of what like sprung him into the spotlight too. Because I mean, they knew who he was. Obviously, his dad was a big figure in the mob.
They were hating like a motherfucker on him too.
Because I think
his crew
he
was
in
like,
prison when that article came out for Forbes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like that sprung him into the spotlight even more.
they hated on Michael like a motherfucker.
I
Because
bet.
how much
He
money
was out
his
there
crew
killing,
had
bro.
and shit. Yeah.
All right, I fucking lost my spot.
Oh,
Oh, okay. 25% interest from the sports agency.
yeah.
In April 1985, Franzese
Was
acquitted of racketeering charges in another case. In December 1985, Franzese was charged in both Florida and New York in regards to counterfeiting and extortion from the gasoline bootlegging racket. In New York, Franzese was one of 9 people indicted on 14 counts. In Florida, Franzese was one of 26 people indicted on 177 counts after a 16-month investigation in Florida called Operation Tiger Tail.
Yep, this is where they finally got him. Loar Rizzo was already sentenced to 5 years and ordered to pay $1.7 million for his role in the theft of $1.1 million in gas taxes and placed in the witness protection program. Began testifying against Franzese and others in their operation in March 1985. On March 21st, 1986, Franzese pleaded guilty to 1 count of racketeering conspiracy and 1 count of tax conspiracy. Franzese was sentenced to 10 years in prison and ordered to pay $14.7 million in restitution on federal charges, agreeing to sell his assets, including a mansion in Old Brookville, New York, the Miami Gold Production Company, and use proceeds from the Knights of the City film. He then reached a plea agreement and was sentenced to 9 years in prison for state racketeering charges in Florida, which would run concurrently with his previous conviction. He also was ordered to pay an additional $3 million in restitution to the state of Florida. Yeah, I don't know if this is going to get much into Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani fucked them up.
Oh, yeah.
He literally went up to Michael and said, he's like, I'm going to give you double what your father got.
Yep.
His father got 50.
And it's crazy, like, the more we've started getting into, like, this crime stuff, it's crazy how they can just stack all these charges because you got federal charges and then you got state charges. So they could go after him, like, twice and just rack this shit up on him. It's crazy, man.
Everybody was flipping at that time, and fucking Michael tells a story that he was in like traffic or something like that with all these fucking federal agents, and they started asking Michael questions like, Michael, you're already convicted. He was like, something. And Mike, they're like, why don't you just fight us or whatever? And Michael was like, I'm just tired of fighting. He was like, if I wanted to beat you guys, I could have.
Yeah.
He was like, if I wanted to beat you guys, I could have this time.
Yeah.
And Michael tells a story. He was like, I'll remember it to this day. He was like, that's when one of the other federal agents looked at me and he said, you wouldn't have beat us this time.
Yeah, we had.
He said, we had 10 guys lined up to like fucking rat on you.
Yeah.
And that's when it really hit him that this shit fucking is for the birds.
Yeah. He started thinking about like his kids and his family and shit. Like, I'm not gonna be here for any of that stuff because I think he had like a new wife. That's when he had like married
met his wife.
Yeah.
Vlad asked a really good question. He asked him, he was like, so you're making all this money, making $10 million a week or whatever. He was like, did you ever have thought of like fleeing to a country that didn't have extradition or anything just to get out of there. And Michael was like, no. He was like, by that, he was like, I had so much heat on me. And he was like, you get charged the same amount for stealing 1 million as you would a billion. He was like, so I might as well just fucking stack it and hide it as much as I can.
Yeah. That's when they actually went and got his like a bank account in Austria. I remember him talking about that. Like,
him and Leroy Rizzo had two fucking.
You had to have like the pin from one guy and the pin from the other.
Yeah, they each had one half of the account number.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fucking, he told Leroy Rizzo when he was fucking locked up, he was like, look, he was like, we're rich, don't give him the other account. He was like, give him whatever, don't give him the other account. They have to have the account, and Leroy Rizzo did.
He ended up giving it up. And I think he said it was like
35 million or something like that.
40. Yeah, it was somewhere around there. Yeah.
But there's also rumors that he has like 40 and 50 buried at other places, which here's the thing. I really think that dude still has a fuck ton of money. Like, you got to think $10 million a week. like $10 million a week.
Right. He's got something put up.
He's got something somewhere.
Yeah.
On December 27th, 1991. Wait, did I skip? Yeah, I was. Yeah. Franzese was subpoenaed to this is a big paragraph right here. Franzese was subpoenaed to testify at Walters' trial in March of 1989, as Walters had invoked his name to frighten college athletes into signing management contracts, including Maurice Douglas. In exchange for his testimony, he was given immunity from prosecution in the Walters case. Walters was found guilty, fined $395,000, and given a sentence of 5 years with the judge in case citing the importance of Franzese's testimony. After Walters' conviction, Franzese was released from prison on parole after serving 43 months. In September 1990, Walters' conviction was overturned by the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, citing a technicality. This is where... Okay, so how we said Franzese, all like these old school mafia guys and shit, a lot of people think he's a rat. But Franzese's argument with this was he played them to a point where he knew that Norby wasn't going to get no jail time. So what he told them was just enough to where it kept him out of jail, but it also was a lot lenient on them. So that's where people don't know if he's a rat, can't really determine if he's a rat or if he's, that guy.
Yeah, because that's what he still insists, like, to this day, that, like, I never gave him anything that they could use against anybody.
He never gave anything on the mafia themselves. Yeah. It was just the Norby Walters thing.
And nobody, like, basically that's what he always said. Nobody got hurt.
Nobody went
anything
to jail.
I gave him, nobody got hurt from.
Yeah. So it's one of those things. Like, I mean, he was super fucking smart, dude.
Yeah.
Like, super fucking smart.
Obviously, I mean, and it's crazy. Like, you just imagine what some of these guys, like, where they would have ended up if they'd have just went, like, taking the straight path instead of going down the path they go. These dudes could have been some high-powered dudes up in the government or some shit.
Yeah, the unions and shit that they were involved with.
Yeah.
Franzese was involved with Trump.
Yeah.
Like, he was involved with fucking Trump, dude.
And it's funny, too, because it's like you look at him now, like he's still making money. This dude's going around, he's on podcasts, he's doing fucking TED Talks and shit. Like, this dude's still getting paid. Like, still to this day knows how to go get the bag, man.
Yep.
Crazy.
I ain't mad at him.
Me neither. I mean, it had to be a hell of a life, man. I'm sure he doesn't regret anything.
Yep.
On December 27th, 1991, Franzese was sentenced in New York to 4 years in federal prison for violating the probation requirements from his 1989 release. Franzese had been arrested in Los Angeles on tax fraud accusation, and was sent back to New York for the probation hearing. In-court prosecutors complained that Franzese had only started paying the balance of his court-ordered restitution payments earlier that year. The prosecutor said that Mr. Franzese had led the government on a long married chase for a number of years, adding, "He gave us nothing of value about anyone in Cosa Nostra. We essentially view him as a con man." Prosecutors said that Franzese was no longer considered by the government to be a federal cooperating witness because of his parole violations.
Yeah, they were pretty much calling him. He was like, "You're just fucking just leading us along."
So that's kind of what we were just talking about. Is like how you just took him on a crazy police chase, and they couldn't really get anybody off of it.
Mm-hmm. He was released on November 7th, 1994, retiring from the mob in 1995 by moving to Cali with his wife and children. The relocation was also a result of receiving multiple death threats and contracts on his life, including one approved by his father. That shit, I forgot all about that. That's nutty.
Yeah.
Like, Carmine Persico put out a hit on him, and Sonny okayed it while he was in jail.
But that just kind of goes back to what we said at the beginning of the episode, where his dad was just by the book.
By the book mob guy.
Yep.
Yep. Since his release in 1994, Franzese has publicly renounced and denounced the life of organized crime, stating, "I've never glamorized my mob life. It's an evil life. And I don't know one family that's part of that life that hasn't been totally devastated." He has since become a motivational speaker for youth at schools, prisons, and other venues. He also speaks at Christian conferences and churches, including Willow Creek Community Church in 2016. On July 23, 2002, while appearing on the HBO television program Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel, Franzese stated that during the 1970s and 80s, he persuaded New York Yankees players who owed money to Colombo loan sharks to fix baseball games for betting purposes. I'm going to stop right there because this isn't true. Like, he clarified that in one of the Vlad interviews. He said, "I'm going to clarify that." He was like, "They wanted me to say it was Yankees."
Yeah.
But he grew up a diehard
Right.
Yankees
He said
fan.
he would never do
He was
that,
like,
man.
"I would never allow my Yankees to lose games
Right.
on account of the mob."
But what did they have a hand in, bro? Because, I mean,
Fucking
they talked about
dude.
boxing, they talked about basketball.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just even look into, like, the MJ stuff, because they talked about MJ a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Vlad
The MJ, yeah, which I don't know if you watched it or not. Vlad interviewed the two guys that killed his dad, and they said it had nothing to do with the mob. And then Vlad asked Michael about it, and Michael was like, "Yeah, I want to clarify that the information that I got from somebody was higher up,
yeah.
but it was false."
Yeah, but just look at all of the like
Ties.
accusations of like betting, and look at all them dudes used to gamble too. Like you can go watch that The Last Dance shit. Like he's gambling in the back room with like, the
Jordan,
security
yeah.
guy. Like I mean, those dudes were just
Yep.
that's crazy, man.
Yep. They would loan out money, okay, and fucking how much he was charging, like fucking the interest rate was insane what he was charging. But to these like sports guys, they were loaning out insane amount of money. He said at one point he had like fucking $2 million out on the street in loans.
Yeah, and he talked about too, like they always paid. He's like,
Always
there's never
paid.
really a time they
Yeah.
had to go like hurt anybody or do anything like that. Like they always paid.
Talking about these fucking like these characters, it just makes me want to go watch fucking mob movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, kind of made me sad, bro, is when they talked about, I mean, which you gotta kind of know that. Like, that's even in the show a little bit, but they kind of said how The Sopranos was just, like, not accurate
Yeah.
at all. Like,
Yeah. Francis said fucking Sopranos was just awful. He said The Irishman was awful too.
that movie's, a lot
I
of people
thought you
like
said it was. I haven't
it's
watched
boring
it.
as shit,
Yeah.
bro. Like, it took me, like, because it's super long, it took me, like
3.5 hours.
it took me, like, 2 days to watch it, and I kept falling asleep. Like, it's just a boring movie.
Yeah. He did say he knows who killed Hoffa and where he's at.
And where he's at,
He's
like, it's wet.
he was like, I just want to say it's really wet. Yeah.
Which is fucking nuts, because that's still like one of the biggest mysteries to this day. Because they go like deep on the Irishman about like Hoffa.
Yeah, at some point, I would love to just talk, like fucking have some kind of interaction with that dude, because the stories that he has,
Yeah, it'd be awesome. So,
him and Sammy both, the stories that
Right.
they'd have.
so
just-
Franzese, if you see this, bro, holler
Yeah,
at
no
us 'cause
shit.
we're trying to have you on.
He actually has done some like, I listened to a podcast that he was on, and they only had like 2,000 subscribers, and this had been the second time that he was on it. So I went and watched the first time, but I couldn't really see how many they had at the time.
Mhm.
So they were talking on this podcast when he was on it. He was like, "Yeah," he was like, "Last time I came on your guys' podcast, you only had 100 subscribers."
That's
But he was like, "I appreciate the stories that you guys tell and stuff like that." So I just came on and did it.
Yeah.
So he does like podcasts like that just to come tell us fucking stories, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when he sees this, come holler at us, bro. We're
Yeah.
trying to have you on for sure.
More Mafia guys coming soon. We'll probably do Gotti next
Yeah.
at some point. We have a bunch of fucking episodes already planned out. So it'll be a couple months at least.
Yeah,
Do we want to talk about what we're going to do next week, or do we want to leave it
we'll just leave it as a surprise.
we'll leave it as a secret.
Once-
Big one coming next week.
Big one coming next week. Also, remember, episodes are releasing on Fridays now.
Fridays,
Hopefully on Spotify next couple
Sundays.
days by Sunday. So go like, subscribe, do all that good stuff.
Big 2024 coming.
Big, because I mean, it's been a slow grow, but it's growing.
Yeah, I mean, and fucking, I had a kid in August, so I mean, I've been like really slow. This is like a year to like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like push it,
Take
push
off.
it. Yep. See you guys.
Peace.